Okay, so let's go with the fifth unit, which we have contemporary issues in management accounting, in which we are talking about the management accounting and control system which is there. Okay, now what exactly do we have in this particular chapter? We have the meaning of management accounting control system. Then what are the various characteristics which are there, technical considerations and behavioral considerations? What are the problems in implementing an effective management control system? Then what are the anticipating, how do you anticipate these problems which are there and try to avoid them? What are the indirect cost of MACS, MACS, Management Accounting Control System? The design and evolution of MACS. What are the ethical code of conduct which are there in MACS and its design, right? And this chapter is completely only theory. We don't have any problems here. Now let's start with the first thing. What exactly is this management accounting control system which is there? MACS plays an important role in controlling the performance of an organization. What it does is it generates and uses the information that helps the decision makers assess whether an organization is achieving its objectives or not. Basically, when you're talking about management accounting system, here, it's very important to understand what is control system. Management accounting is known to all of us. Management accounting is what providing, basically it is the information which is being provided for the management in all their planning, decision making, or various aspects which are there in an organization. When I talk about management accounting control system, what is that we basically are discussing? We are discussing what is the role of management accounting control system in helping the decision makers in determining whether the organization strategies or objectives are being met or not. The thing is, companies which are there, right, they have objectives. Each and every organization would have certain set of objectives and goals. The point is, MACS is trying to help both from the financial and the non-financial perspectives. It's trying to help management understand whether its objectives are met or not. So here, what exactly is the meaning of management accounting control system? When I say MACS, it is a system which gathers and uses information to evaluate the performance of different organizational resources like human, physical, financial, and also the organization as a whole in light of organizational strategies which are being pursued. Now, what do I mean by that? It means you are trying to gather and use information for performance evaluation in an organization. So I want to evaluate the performance, evaluate the performances which are there of all the various resources. That is, what is the performance or evaluation of the human resources which are there in an organization, the physical resources, that is possibly you've invested something in your fixed assets or so, and then you want to know what is the performance evaluation of these physical resources. Financial resources, whatever long-term investments, working capital which is made by you, you're talking about the performance of these financial resources, and also the complete organization's resources, let that be in any form. Your idea is basically to understand whether whatever is invested is are we getting the benefit out of it in the right manner? Is the resource being utilized in the right manner? Right? So it looks from all the various perspectives. It doesn't look only from one particular aspective. Here it looks from each and every aspective which is there. So what exactly is this term? It is the set of procedures, tools, performance measures, systems, and incentives that organization used to guide and motivate all employees to achieve the organizational objective. So when I'm talking about the objective of an organization, in order to achieve this, every step which is required is a part of MACS, right? It means what are the procedures involved in it? What are the various tools I'm using? I can use tools like, balance scorecard or so in finding out the various perspectives. So what are the performance measures? That's what performance measures are. This is like the balance scorecard or so, or if I'm doing financial measures, maybe I'm talking about ROI or so. Of course, when I talk about balance scorecard, I'm talking about all the four perspective in which financial and non-financial come into consideration. So I'm talking about all the performance measures which are there, the systems and incentives that organization used to guide the employees. What is the system which is used by the organization to achieve the goals for the employees? See, one thing is there that it's not enough if I bring a new system in the organization and tell everyone now start following it. The thing is, if I want a new system, a latest system being applied in order to reach my goals, the main point is, am I conveying it to the employees how to go with that particular system? Are the employees also a part of my decision making? Are the employees aware of what I'm trying to teach them or trying to, or expecting from them? So the question here is that, am I giving them the proper guide to actually, reach the goals of an organization? And, Max also says it is not sufficient if you only talk about the goals of organization. You should also talk about incentives which are there to the employees, and employees should be happy, they should be benefited, because it says development of an organization is overall development. You can't say, organization gets profit, chalo bas khatam. No, that's not the thing. It says, development which is there is an overall development of the organization, right? Even from the aspect of the motivation to the employees through incentives, or there were many researches which have proved that incentives doesn't mean only only the monetary aspects which are there. There are many situations or many employees wherein, for them, more than a hike in salary, a promotion gives more important. More than 1,000 rupees increment, they would like to be called as a manager, right? These aspects are also very very important. So Max talks about all these aspects which are there. So when I'm talking about Max, therefore, first, a system is in control. It says, I already have discussed about the definition which is there about Max, right? So when I'm talking about Max, we have understood, we have taken a word there, system. What do I mean by a system? A system means I'm talking about the complete, organizations, procedures, activities, policies, everything, objectives, goals, right? How do you achieve them? Each and everything is being taken into consideration. For MACS, what it says is a system is in control if it is on the path to achieve its strategic objectives. It means whenever you are trying to reach the objectives, if it happens that the procedures adopted by you, the policies adopted by you, the system which is adopted by you is actually reaching the objectives of an organization, you say that everything is under control. But suppose it happens you are not reaching whatever goals you are talking about, then it says that the system is out of control, right? So MACS basically discusses about this control objective which is there. And it also system is also in control when you are talking about the whole process which is being involved in it. It means for the process of control to have meaning and credibility, the organization must have the knowledge and the ability to correct the situation that it identifies as being out of control. It means what? If I am talking about control in an organization, I am talking about the credibility of this particular control. What do I mean by, credibility which is there? It means, is this situation in my hand? Can I vouch for it? Okay. Can I say, yes, this has happened under my nose? Yes, this particular situation has taken place with my knowledge. If I am talking about such credibility, it's very, very important that the organization must have the knowledge and ability to correct the situations that it is identifying as being out of control. Remember, I can say, organization is under control only if I know where things are going wrong. Keep that in mind. Suppose I am not able to correct things, make it, very clear that things are not under your control, right? It means if it happens, the manager doesn't know why he is not able to reach the goals, why he is not able to make people do the work in a particular manner to reach their objectives. It means things are not under control. If he doesn't know whether the human beings, the physical assets, whether they are performing the way he thought of course he doesn't know how to control them. It means he's lost the control. So if it happens that there is some employee who does a work, management doesn't know what is being done by him. It means manager doesn't have a control on the aspect. If he doesn't have a control, for sure, objectives are not reached, goals are not reached. So where does it lead to? It leads to a mess. Maybe, short run goals may be reached, but what about the long run objectives which are there? That would be a mess for an organization. So here, what does it talk about? It talks about, whether your process of control, right, is in your hand. It means, are you able to make changes whenever required? Do you have the knowledge and do you have the ability to correct the situations which are out of control? If so, yes, your system is in control. If not, undoubtedly the system is not in control. It means you don't know what people are doing. So automatically, things are out of control for the organization. So here, thing to remember is that if I am talking about control in an organization, compulsory, this particular knowledge, ability to correct the situation has to be there. If that's not there, I can't, or I can't say that company has a control on the system. There's no meaning at all for the word control which I'm talking about, because I don't know what's happening in the organization. So it's very important when I talk about, an organization's goal to be reached, I understand what exactly, is my complete, resources. What is the system? Where is it leading to? How are things going on? Am I in the right track? Are things under my control? Can I correct the situations? If yes, my system is in control. If my system is in control, I would say undoubtedly your management accounting and control system in an organization is working perfect. So here, when I talk about the process of keeping an organization in control, there are four different stages which are there in organization control. The first stage I am talking is planning. What do I mean by planning? Planning means you're developing an organizational objective. The first thing you should know is what do you want, or which objective are you trying to reach? What is the goal of the organization? The company should be knowing what exactly is the organization's objective, for which it should choose what are the various activities which are to be accomplished to reach this particular objective, to accomplish this particular objective. So, for me, planning here means I am selecting the activities, I am selecting the measures to determine how well these objectives are met. So when I say plan means developing an organization's objectives. I choose the activities to reach these objectives and also select the measures which are to be determined on how well the objectives are to be met. The next stage in my organization control is the do's. That is how well the plan is to be implemented. That is my procedure which is to be adopted. The third stage which I talk about is check. When I say checking, checking means I'm talking about monitoring by measuring and evaluating the system's current level of performance. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about, plan is being made. People have implemented. I need to compare them. I need to compare the plans with the implementations to understand what exactly is the work done. Is it according to what I thought of? That is my objectives. Did people implement my plans according to the goals which are being set to each one of them? I am supposed to evaluate the current performance level which is there. Compare the feedback about the system's current level of performance. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to compare the activities, come to certain conclusion whether what I have planned is being implemented or not. Then I go to the fourth activity which is there, that is act. What do I mean by act? The word says take appropriate actions. Now when I am talking about reaching an objective. I have planned the objective. I asked people to implement them. Then I made a comparison. Then I would understand some difference may be there undoubtedly in, reaching the goals. Now I will start taking action on these differences which are there. I come to some conclusion that in this particular department or with this particular individual, things have, things were not under control, or possibly things have reached the goals according to what I thought. So now what I'll do, I'll take the appropriate action to return to the system and to have an in control state. It means I would like to bring back a control on the system by making appropriate changes, whatever required to reach the organizational objectives. So, here what happens when I say actions, I am talking about making corrections either in your system if things go wrong in the system, making corrections either in the behavior of an individual, or talking about certain implementations which were already done. So what I'm trying to do here is whatever is compared, I bring about these differences and I start taking appropriate action on all these differences. This is regardless of which organization it is. Keep in mind, when I talk about MACS, MACS can be applied in any type of organization. I wouldn't say that MACS is only talking about, one financial based organization, one organization which is purely a manufacturing industry, one organization which is purely a service industry, or possibly I am not seeing that MACS is applicable, maybe for, service oriented organization. No, I can also talk about, an organization which is trying to make video games. Possibly when the video games are going on, they need to take necessary actions if at all whatever they have planned for is not being implemented in the right manner, right? So they'll keep understanding that yes, there is something going wrong here, then I need to make changes in my video game. Same thing is applied everywhere. You talk about a small, a big, right? A manufacturing unit, a service unit, whatever the type of unit is, undoubtedly MACS is applicable in each and every organization. So when I talk about the steps, those 4 steps which I was talking, this is simply you establish certain standards, right? That is the plan. Then you think about the actual performance, that is the doing aspect. Then you compare with the actual performance, that is the checking aspect. Then you take corrective actions if necessary, that is your act which is there. So, this is any control system which we have learnt. In accounting also we have learnt standard costing, budgetary control. In all these you have these steps. But one thing to understand, MACS is not only for organization in which you're talking only about a manufacturing or a service oriented industry. Any small, big, any industry which is there basically can get benefited with the system of MACS. So, what exactly are the characteristics which are there of a well designed MACS? So, when I talk about the characteristics of a well designed, management accounting system which is there, basically, I have 2 considerations which are there, right? What are the characteristics here? Control process, one thing to understand, it will be different from one organization to another organization. But the system of MACS is not different. Generally, designers who are there of Mac, they understand that there are two different characteristics while developing Macs. One is the technical characteristics which are there. Second one is the behavioral characteristics which are there. When I talk about technical considerations which are there, they fall into two categories: relevance of information generated and the scope of the system. I repeat, technical consideration, when I'm discussing these factors, they fall into two categories. It means I would be explaining y'all the technical characteristics which are there in two different stages, we can say. One, what is the relevance of the information generated? Two, what is the scope of the system? Right? So let us go with the first aspect which is there, that is the relevance of information. Relevance of information is measured by four characteristics. When I say four characteristics, what are they? Accuracy, timeliness, consistency, flexibility. These are the four characteristics which are involved in my technical aspects for having a perfect MACS, that is Management Accounting Control System. In order to have a good MACS, the first characteristic, first consideration I have is technical consideration. So let me first talk about the accuracy. When I talk about accuracy, accurate means I am talking how accurate the information is when I am using it in my decision making. Remember, an inaccurate information may lead or give a wrong conclusion, wrong decision in an organization. It's very, very important that information is as accurate as possible. And inaccurate information may have misleading decisions in an organization. But keep in mind, that doesn't mean that if I say accuracy, it doesn't mean in order to get a correct, accurate information, I start searching, digging the information, invest lots of amount to get a correct picture, and at the end I understand that in order to get accuracy, I have invested too much of money. So it should not be that you are trading off between the cost and the benefit of bringing out the accuracy in your information. What do I mean by a cost and benefit trade-off? I should not involve so much cost in bringing accuracy that I lose the benefit of getting the correct information. Okay? It means tracing of cost should not be so heavy that I lose the benefits of applying the whole management accounting control system. Control system basically talks about cost effectiveness. So if at all I lose the cost effectiveness, the charm of MACS is lost. So I am supposed to keep in mind that the cost and the benefit should not be traded off. Traded off means if I think about accuracy and I go too much with, bringing correct accuracy, my cost may increase. If cost increasing, benefit is reducing. But suppose if I ignore saying that, let me not dig out too much of information, why need to be so accurate in it? Let me think more about my benefits. That should not give you misleading information for your decision making. So you cannot have a trade off between your cost and the benefit. The second aspect which we have is timeliness. What exactly is timeliness? Accurate information that is late is also of little use for decision making. What do I mean by that? We have a very good say in reporting which says a report delayed is a report denied. It means if I give information, accurate information, and I give it very late, already decisions are being taken. What is the use of such accurate information that doesn't help in making decisions for an organization? So, here what happens? My charm of accuracy is lost by this particular delay which is there in getting the information. We all know that today's newspaper for tomorrow is useless. You pay only for today's news. You are not going to take, today's newspaper tomorrow because that is a waste paper for the next day. Same thing happens even when you talk about information. So when I say timely information, it's important that the information should be timely. Now, in order to have a timely information, your MACS means Management Accounting Control System. Your MACS must be designed in such a way that the results are being given in the most, fastest way and the best way with the accurate information as much as possible. So here it is the system designing which is important to have a timely decision making. So a delay which is there will undoubtedly lead to huge loss for an organization. We all know that nowadays we have high speed computers, local area networks. Your computers can do so much of work, in order to provide the right information at the right time to the right person for taking the correct decision making. So here it is important that you frame the system in such a way that information is also accurate, time is also before the decision is being taken, time is also being used properly. The third characteristic which we have is consistency. When I talk about consistency, I'm talking about the language used, the technical methods which are being used, which are to be the same every time I do the calculations. It's not that today I try to apply one system and tomorrow I try to apply another system. Here I would like to tell you one particular concept of costing, that our traditional costing system which is there is basically called as volume based costing system. What do I mean by volume based costing system? Volume based costing system means, if you all remember, when we have done costing, 99% all our concentration was on calculating cost per unit. Unit means you're talking about volume. It means your concentration is only on how many units are produced, what is the cost per unit. So basically our traditional costing systems which are there, they are volume based costing systems. But here it says, when you're talking about latest modern costing systems which are there. We have activity based costings, we have target costing. What do I mean by activity based costing? When you're talking about overhead allocations, not necessary I'm supposed to divide on the basis of number of units. I can also divide on the basis of the activity which is being involved in that particular department. It means I am dividing expenses. I am not dividing expenses between departments on the basis of number of units used in the organization. I am trying to take what is the activity performed. Is this expenditure related to this activity or not? So if it happens, I just divide an expenditure on the basis of volume, possibly I would be dividing with all the departments in which an activity has not at all taken place. Why should I allocate an expenditure to a department in which that activity only has not taken place? So volume based cost doesn't talk about, in certain circumstances, the relevance which is there. So here what happens? I am here trying to concentrate whether that particular activity is actually incurred, and then I'll do the allocation of expenses which are there. So my expenses, my allocation is not on, the number of units. I am basing it on what is the relevant activity in this particular department. Now here, why did I use that? Now this is consistency. That is, it's not that in one particular order which I receive, I take activity based costing, and then in another next year, I am trying to take, or in another department or in another division. In one division, I am trying to take activity based costing. In another division, I am trying to take volume based costing. Okay. Now that is no consistency. What do I compare? How do I compare two different divisions of my own company or two different departments of my own company? There's no consistency. So the problem which arises here is that once the language or the technical method is used in one division, it has to be the same in all the divisions of that particular organization. Okay. So when I'm talking about, certain expenses, I'm talking about overheads. I'll give you one more example here also. Let us imagine I am talking about, maybe I'm talking about the watchman's salary in my department, in my organization. Let us imagine that, we have four different departments which are there. In one department, imagine the watchman's salary is taken as a direct labor. Who are direct labor? The ones who are directly related to production, right? They are the ones who are involved in the production activity. And imagine in another department, they take watchman's salary as indirect labor. Who are indirect labor? The workers who are helping in the production, but not actually into the production. Now here again, there is no consistency. What's happening? When I'm allocating the cost, when I'm trying to give a meaning to my expenses, the same information in one department, I treat it as direct. The same information in another department, I treat it as indirect. That's wrong. One more example. Power. Power which is there can be either a direct expenditure or an indirect expenditure. When is a direct expenditure? If at all the power expenses can be allocated to one unit, yes, it becomes a direct expenditure. But suppose I can't calculate it for one unit produced, it becomes an indirect expenditure. Let us imagine that I'm talking about two different departments of one particular organization. In one department, they are taking power as a direct expenditure. In another department, they are taking power as an indirect expenditure. There's no consistency. So consistency means what? Whatever methods I'm adopting have to be the same. Let that be, my overhead classifications, let that be my expenses which are there, right? Whatever aspect I'm talking about, each and every aspect, there should be a consistency. Otherwise, there would be a chaos in the organization because one department would have a different understanding and the other department would have a different understanding on the same topic. This should be avoided. Fourth, flexibility. What do I mean by flexibility? MACS designers who are there, they must allow employees to use the system available information in a flexible manner so that they can customize its application for local decisions. What do I mean by that? Employees can be using the information in a manner which is suitable for them, right? Example, when I'm talking about one division of a company which is located in Hyderabad, it undertakes a new product development, and another department of my company, possibly which is there in Vishakhapatnam, is talking about an existing products, assembly or assembling the existing products. It is in that particular stage. When I'm applying MACS, what control system is applicable for a new product development may not be applicable for an existing product which is there. So what happens? Hyderabad department, it's not that Hyderabad department and Vizag department, they get confused. How do I use it? It means you should make the system in such a way that let that be the Hyderabad department, let that be the Vishakhapatnam department. Each department is able to convert the system into their own, stages which are there, and they are able to apply it. So here what's happening when I am talking about flexibility, you should design the system in such a way that employees can use it in a manner depending upon the stage in which they are. I should not have an ambiguity there as to how to apply if at all I am in a new product stage, or how to apply if at all I am in a existing old product stage. I should not have that ambiguity. It means I should have a very general, common max being prepared, designed such that it's applicable in every organized department of yours, by every employee, for every work adopted by him. So I should have that particular, flexibility which I permit to my, workers, employees, so that they can actually use it in a way which is useful to them, right? It's not that they have to be tensed. What would happen next? Or how do I, use it in my situation? That ambiguity should not be there in the design of MACS, that is the system which is being adopted by us, right? So the four characteristics which are there, which talk about the relevance in technical consideration, should be accuracy, correct information, timeliness, I should give the information at the right time, consistency, see that all the departments are trying to apply the same method, same procedures, same language, right? And there should be some flexibility which is there. That is, any individual is able to actually, understand the system which is being designed for them. So the first one is relevance of information. The second one which I'm talking about is the scope of MACS. When I talk about the scope of MACS, I am talking in terms of whether this particular system, which that is the management accounting control system which I am talking, whether it is comprehensive, does it include all the activities across the entire value chain in an organization. Okay, it means what? The complete organization should be able to use for all its activities MACS, right? So here, when I'm talking about the actual production, the complete process of production which is there, right? The performance of the suppliers, the design activities, the post-production activities. Let that be any activity which is there. It should be applicable for the all the activities in the organization, the entire value chain which is there in a particular organization. So when I say scope includes all the activities across the organization, right, to assess the performance, or assess the performance of all the various parts which are there. It should not be for one particular variable, right? In fact, it should be for a complete organization which is there. So the first characteristic which we have learned is we have learned the technical consideration. What exactly is the second characteristic? The second consideration which I am talking about is the behavioral consideration. What is behavioral consideration? Understand, it is the human beings who are carrying out the system, because human interest and motivation can vary significantly. A major role for control system is to motivate the behavior which is there of these individuals. It means, it is people who are trying to reach the goals. If you want people to reach the goals, then you have to motivate them. Now, this is what is behavioral aspect. So when I say behavioral consideration, I'm talking about, all those aspects in which I can motivate the human beings, employees of an organization, to see that the objectives are reached in an organization. In behavioral consideration also, we have four major behavioral characteristics which are to be considered. The first one is embedding, that is fixing the organization's ethical code of conduct into MACS design. It means, first thing, I need an ethical code of conduct which is there in the design system which I am adopting. Second, use a mix of short-term, long-term, quantitative and qualitative performance measures. When you talk about quantitative and qualitative, I hope you'll remember the balanced scorecard approach, which I already told you, in which the various perspectives, the perspective from the company, the financial measures which are there, the customer's perspective which is there, the system's perspective which is there, all are taken into consideration. So when I'm talking about behavioral aspects, you need to look into both quantitative and qualitative aspects which are there. The third point which we have here is I am talking about the empowering of employees to be involved in decision making in designing this MACS system. So I need to empower the employees. What do I mean by empowering the employees? Empowering the employees means basically MACS, the system which is there, it says you are not supposed to design a system without involving the employees in an organization. It says you design the system by including them. These are the ones who are going to reach the goals. It's not only the top CEO who's trying to reach the goals. There are people who are actually working for the organization. So, what does it say? Empower these employees to be involved in decision making. Ask them, satisfy them, include them, and then you find wonders taking place in an organization. The fourth behavioral aspect is developing an appropriate incentive system to reward these employees' performances. So, when I'm talking about organizations, employees, keep in mind that incentives are a must for motivating an employee. Here, I already told you that when I say incentives, incentives are not only monetary incentives. Keep in mind, non-monetary incentives in many cases are very important. That is, example, I can't say only 1,000 rupees or a 2,000 increment is enough for an employee. No, many situations an employee gets satisfied for the work performed by him only when he gets a correct status. So you develop such system and you reward their performances. Then the design of your MACS is good. Then the employees are happy. And then you can expect a very long run successful achievement in an organization. So when I talk about behavioral considerations, I'm talking about all the four aspects which are there. I'm talking about the ethical code of conduct in an organization. I'm talking about the balanced scorecard approach of talking both financial measures, non-financial measures, considering companies' profits, employees' benefits, customers' benefits, a proper system in an organization, all are to be taken into consideration. Third aspect, empowering the employees to be involved in decision making to understand how exactly they can actually perform, right? This particular system adopted by you. They are the ones who are the doers, right? So management has to make it a point that employees are being involved in decision making. The fourth aspect, as I already told you, provide the incentives to reward the performances of these employees who are there. You can't really ignore the various aspects which are there in the rewarding of performances of an organization because it would have a negative impact in the long run. So these are the behavioral considerations which are there in our MACS designing. Now, what exactly? Now, let me tell one particular right. Okay. What exactly are the problems which are involved in implementing MACS? So when I say MACS, Management Accounting Control System, undoubtedly I have many difficulties which would be there to actually implement a effective management control system. So, what exactly are these difficulties which I would face? The problems which would be there in implementing an effective management control system. So, First, failure to set clear goals. If it happens, I don't set the correct objectives in an organization, either a higher goal. If it is a higher goal, people can't reach it, they get demotivated. Or a lower, if it is less than what is required, efficient people will not be able to perform to the max. It means you have to set the correct goal, and it should be clear for the employees who are there. The magnitude of change. I need to know whether flexibility is applied in my organization, my system. If not, if I am rigid in my organization, do not accept changes, you would have, failure, in this particular system. Faulty standards, as I told you, when you are setting the goals, if the standards set are wrong, either more than what is desired, leading to demotivating the employees who are there, or lower standards leading to inefficiency in the employees, both are going to create huge problems for an organization. Information is being overloaded. When you talk about information, if it happens that we are overloading the information to the employees, and if they are not able to understand the information which is given by us in the right manner, in communication we say that if the encoding and decoding is not being done properly, what is that? I tell something, you don't understand the way I am telling it, then there is a noise being created. What do I mean by that? What information I want to give, if that's understood in a wrong manner by the listener, then you would have a huge difference of opinion which may create a noise in an organization and lead to chaos. So, information should not be overloaded. There should be a resistance. When I say resistance, it's resistance means what? People should be ready to accept what information you are giving. Suppose they are reluctant to it, gone. What do you mean by that? Either you have overloaded, or you have given a faulty standard, right? Or the goals are not clear. He is having so much of ambiguity. He doesn't like too much of changes, or possibly, there is too much of rigidity, right? Then what would happen? They start resisting it. It means they'll say, no, I'm not going to adopt the new system which is there. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not going to use the system, or possibly, even if I use, I'm not going to make max out of it. Then there is a chaos in the organization. So these are some of the problems which are there in implementing an effective management control system. You have to anticipate and therefore avoid these problems which are there. Remember, it is not possible to avoid the problems completely. Therefore, the primary focus of the organization is to avoid some of the problems. When I say avoiding, I can't really try to avoid all the problems, because no one in this world can please everyone. Therefore, when it happens that I am talking about, and a system which is being adopted, what may be easy, what may be comfortable for one department, for one individual, may not be comfortable for another. But here, I can't ignore all the problems completely. What do I do then? I start selecting which are the ones I can change, which are the ones I can make it comfortable for the employees, adapt it, and try to explain in different ways, make them understand. about these system which is there so as to make either the employee adaptive to it, or where possible you try to change depending upon the possibility. Generally, there are four stages which are used to handle to avoid these problems. First, a smart manager avoids risk oriented activities to control the problem. So first, first is you need to be a smart manager there. Of course, we all know nowadays it is not, the hardworking manager, but it is the smart manager who is successful nowadays. So you need to understand, we just say that if it's not possible, for the individual to adjust, then you try to reframe things and then make it comfortable for him. It means you are trying to see that convincing the employees, making them easily understandable goals being set, and then trying to see that no employee is actually unhappy by, you know, conducting regular sessions, training sessions, practice sessions, and helping them to, reach these goals. So you need to be a smart manager there. Second, automation. Using technology, expert systems reduce the exposure to some of the problems. There are some situations wherein for human beings, it may be overloaded, but when it comes to system, I think we all know that artificial intelligence, it tries to accept as much data as is coming in and then understand the situation and helps in making analysis which is there. So even a huge big data can be accepted by the latest technologies which are there. But when you are talking about an individual, maybe after a particular point it becomes saturated for him. So check, is it that it's being tough for the employees to understand or accept, adapt the system? If so, try to use a little bit of technology. Centralization or decision making which is there. When you're talking about decision making, though we want employees to be involved in decisions, keep in mind that the main decision which has to be there should be with that particular key decision maker who is there, right? It can't be that major decisions are being taken by each and every individual. The key decision should be taken by one individual only. Maybe employees should be a part of discussions in making decisions, but final decision which is there should be made only by one individual. Sharing risk with outside entities can reduce the possible losses which are there. It means what? Wherever you are not able to solve a particular problem, then better you try to share the risk which is there with some other entity of yours, wherein they can give you a better idea to solve a particular situation. So, how do you try to reduce these problems which are there? Be a smart manager, right? Second, try to go for automation where you find that information is overloaded for the employees. Third, see that though you involve employees in decision making, there is not much chaos and there is a centralization which is there in your decision making. And where things are out of your control, try to share the risk which is there with some other entity and try to reduce the possible losses which are there in an organization, right? So we would stop with these behavioral considerations which are there till here. uh, and we would you know just check or revise what is that we have done till now. The first thing, if you remember what we have done, we have understood that management accounting control system talks about a complete procedure, the technique which is being involved in reaching the organization's objectives which are there. And second, we understood that for MACS, there are four particular stages. You need to plan, you need to do it, implement it, you need to check it, and then you need to take appropriate actions. Next, we understood that there are two basic characteristics which are there: technical considerations and behavioral considerations. Technical considerations which are there, basically we're talking about four different aspects. Technical considerations, it was talking about accuracy, timeliness, consistency, flexibility, right? These were the relevance which is there for your technical consideration. When I say scope, it will include all the activities which are there in the entire value system. That is the first consideration. Second consideration, we were talking about behavioral consideration. Behavioral consideration, there were four different aspects which are there. First, you should embed with a ethical code in an organization, have a balanced scorecard approach, that is short term and long term qualitative and quantitative measures, then empower the employees in making decisions, and develop an appropriate incentive system which is there to reward the performance of an organization. And then we were trying to understand what are the various problems which are there in MACS designing, and at the end we have understood how to anticipate and avoid these problems. So we just stop here.